The Sigma Empath is a paradox, a mystery that logic can't quite explain. They feel everything yet reveal almost nothing. Their empathy runs oceans deep, but their mind cuts through emotion like a blade of clarity. To most people, this combination makes no sense. How can someone care so deeply and still remain so calm? But that's the Sigma Empath's secret power, cold logic with a warm soul. They see through lies not because they're detached, but because they've trained their heart to think. They love quietly, protect fiercely, and analyze deeply. They don't chase validation, yet they crave truth. Their warmth is deliberate, not automatic, given to those who've earned it. And when that warmth withdraws, the silence feels colder than words ever could. The Sigma Empath doesn't just read emotion, they understand the architecture behind it. This duality confuses manipulators and intimidates pretenders. You can't guilt a Sigma Empath. You can't perform your way into their heart. They see through surface charm into intent. They can read sincerity in microseconds, and that's what makes them both loved and feared. You're watching Brainy Empath, where emotional depth meets psychological intelligence. Subscribe if you've ever been called too sensitive and too logical in the same breath, and tell me in the comments, do you lead with your heart, your mind, or have you learned how to let both work together in silence? Calculated compassion. The Sigma Empath doesn't pour their compassion recklessly, they aim it. To outsiders, it looks cold, even detached, but it's precision born from experience. They've loved people who took their warmth as permission to drain them. They've listened until their silence was mistaken for weakness. And somewhere along that journey, they realize compassion isn't about giving endlessly, it's about giving wisely. Now, when they care, it's deliberate. Their empathy isn't impulsive, it's measured. They feel your pain before you say a word, but they don't rush to fix it. They study it, analyze its patterns, and decide whether their help will heal you or enable you. That's what makes them different from ordinary empaths. They know that not everyone who needs saving actually wants change. So they've learned to love with logic, to be kind with boundaries, and to listen without losing themselves in someone else's storm. This doesn't mean their heart has hardened. Quite the opposite. It's become smarter. They still see beauty in broken people, but they've learned that pity without perspective is just self-destruction. Their compassion now flows like a river guided by rock, strong, intentional, unstoppable when it chooses to move. And when they choose to care for you, it's because they've seen something real in you, something worth their energy, their time, and their peace. People who mistake their calmness for apathy never understand how deep this type of empathy runs. The Sigma Empath doesn't need to cry with you to feel you. They can stay composed while still holding your pain in their hands. Their restraint isn't coldness, it's control, because they've learned that the most powerful form of love isn't loud, it's focused. Their compassion is no longer a reflex, it's a conscious act of strength. They've redefined kindness from always saying yes to knowing when to stop. And that transformation is what makes them truly rare. Because in a world that rewards reaction, the Sigma Empath chooses intention. They don't love everyone, but the ones they do love feel it like gravity, quiet, constant, and unshakably real. Analytic Intuition. The Sigma Empath doesn't just feel, they decode. Their intuition isn't wild or mystical, it's sharpened by analysis, shaped by observation, and verified through logic. They don't simply sense energy, they read it, map it, and break it down like an equation. It's empathy fused with intellect, instinct guided by evidence. They'll notice the slight pause in your tone, the flicker behind your smile, the way your eyes drift when you're hiding something, and in seconds, they'll build a psychological profile that's frighteningly accurate. This isn't manipulation, it's survival. Sigma Empaths learned early that intuition alone could betray them. They once believed feelings were always truth, until they met people who weaponized empathy against them. So now they cross-check their intuition with logic. If their gut says something's off, their mind demands proof. They'll observe quietly, collect emotional data, and connect dots no one else sees. While others are lost in noise, they're analyzing patterns, and when they finally speak, it's not a guess, it's a conclusion. This combination of emotion and logic gives them a strange kind of power. They can sense deception faster than words can form. They can detect manipulation before it becomes visible. But it also makes them lonely. Because while most people trust what they're told, Sigma empaths trust what they know, and that knowing isolates them. It's not arrogance, it's accuracy. Their awareness is both gift and burden. They see motives people try to hide, and they can't unsee them once revealed. Their mind never stops scanning, not out of paranoia, but precision. They navigate life like a human lie detector wrapped in empathy. When they care about you, they analyze you deeply, not to control you, but to protect both of you from misunderstanding. And if they ever pull away, it's rarely random. It's because the data doesn't match the emotion. To the world, they seem calm and unreadable, but behind that stillness is a processor running thousands of emotional calculations at once. Their intuition is science in motion, and their empathy, the instrument that makes it human. The Sigma empath doesn't guess truth. They understand it, and that's why you can't hide yours for long. Emotionally strategic presence. The Sigma empath doesn't enter rooms to be noticed, they enter to understand. Their presence is never random, it's deliberate, grounded, and quietly magnetic. While others dominate conversations, they observe patterns. While people rush to respond, they study reactions. Every word they speak, every silence they hold has intention behind it. They don't waste energy proving their worth. Their stillness does that for them. Their emotional presence feels calm yet commanding because it's rooted in awareness, not impulse. When they listen, they're not just hearing words, they're decoding emotional intent. They can sense when someone's lying to themselves, when tension fills the air, or when truth hides between sentences. Yet they never expose it outright. They keep that knowledge stored, using it to navigate dynamics like a strategist on an invisible battlefield. To those who misunderstand them, this restraint looks cold, but it's not detachment, it's discipline. The Sigma empath has learned that not every emotion deserves expression, and not every situation deserves energy. Their empathy used to be reactive, now it's selective. They know when to speak comfort and when to let silence teach. They know that sometimes saying nothing is the loudest way to protect peace. In relationships, their emotional strategy becomes their shield. They don't overgive anymore. They wait, observe, and match energy. If someone's genuine, they open up. If someone's manipulative, they retreat with quiet grace. It's not manipulation, it's mastery. They've learned that maintaining emotional balance in a world addicted to chaos is the highest form of power. What makes them truly magnetic is that their presence feels safe yet unpredictable. People sense their depth but can't quite read them. They radiate warmth, but there's structure beneath it. A quiet message that says, I choose who gets access to my peace. And that's what unsettles manipulators the most. Because the Sigma empath's power doesn't lie in how much they feel, it lies in how intentionally they use what they feel. Every emotion, every reaction, every word is part of a larger design, staying grounded in a world that constantly tries to pull them off balance. They don't just feel deeply, they feel strategically, and that's what makes their presence unforgettable. Protective, objectivity. The Sigma empath doesn't distance themselves from emotion because they lack heart. They do it because they've felt too much. Their objectivity isn't coldness, it's armor built from years of emotional exposure. They've been the peacemaker, the listener, the one who absorbed everyone's pain without limits until it nearly broke them. Now they observe before they engage, they analyze before they empathize. They've learned that not every wound needs their touch, and not every storm is theirs to calm. Protective objectivity is their way of staying compassionate without collapsing. They still feel the emotions in the room, but they no longer drown in them. When someone cries, they don't rush to rescue, they ground the moment. When someone rages, they don't absorb the anger, they read its root. They've mastered the rare art of empathy with boundaries, caring without carrying. It's not detachment, it's clarity. They can stand beside chaos and still hear their own heartbeat. This calm unnerves manipulators. Narcissists, energy vampires, and attention seekers lose power when their emotional bait doesn't work. The Sigma empath won't chase or fix. They'll watch quietly, analyze motives, and choose response over reaction. That stillness is power disguised as peace. It's how they stay safe in a world where emotional chaos is the norm. In truth, their objectivity comes from deep love, not for others, but for balance. They know that empathy without perspective becomes self-destruction. They've learned to care in ways that don't cost them their sanity, so they treat emotion like sacred energy, to be shared, not spilled. They can cry with you and still think clearly. They can love deeply and still let go when love turns toxic. And that's what makes them unstoppable. Their compassion no longer depends on chaos. It thrives in clarity. When others react blindly, they pause. When others get lost in feelings, they see patterns. Their objectivity doesn't make them less human, it makes them unbreakable. Because the Sigma empath finally learned what most never do. Staying objective doesn't mean you stopped caring, it means you care intelligently. The sympathy strategy switch. Once upon a time, the Sigma empath's first instinct was always sympathy. They saw pain and rushed in, no hesitation, no filter. They believed that helping meant healing, that understanding meant safety. But experience taught them a harsher truth. Some people don't want healing, they want a host. They want your sympathy to be their permission slip for chaos. So the Sigma empath evolved, trading emotional reflex for emotional strategy. Now, when they meet someone's pain, they pause. They no longer rush to absorb it, they observe it. They ask, is this person seeking growth or attention? They still feel everything, but they respond differently. Their empathy now serves a higher purpose, to guide, not to rescue. They learned that pity feeds cycles while strategy breaks them, and that shift, subtle but powerful, is what separates them from traditional empaths. When they sense manipulation disguised as vulnerability, they don't attack, they redirect. They use silence to expose patterns, logic to diffuse guilt, and calmness to break control. Their empathy has become tactical, not cold, not cruel, but aware. They can sit in someone's darkness without getting pulled into it. They can comfort without enabling. They can help without losing themselves. This evolution often confuses people. Those used to their endless compassion suddenly find boundaries. The ones who depended on emotional access now face calm distance. To manipulators, it feels like betrayal. To the Sigma empath, it's liberation, because they've learned that real empathy doesn't mean saving everyone. It means understanding who wants to be saved. They've turned sympathy into insight and insight into power. Their emotions no longer control their choices, their awareness does. That's why they can walk away from chaos without guilt and from toxic love without looking back. Their care is still deep, but now it's disciplined. And in that transformation lies the paradox that defines them. They're both healer and strategist, heart and mind, warmth and weapon. The Sigma empath no longer bleeds for everyone. They choose who they bleed for, because sympathy once drained them, but strategy keeps them whole. Boundary-based benevolence. The Sigma empath kindness used to be limitless, a river that flowed endlessly, even into deserts that gave nothing back. They once believed that love meant giving without measure, that compassion meant sacrifice, but every time they overextended, someone took advantage. Every time they said yes, someone learned how to ask for more. Eventually, they realized that empathy without boundaries isn't love, it's self-erasure. And that's when their benevolence evolved into something far more powerful, boundary-based compassion. Now, their kindness has structure, their care comes with clarity, they give, but not endlessly, they listen, but not at the cost of their peace. Their love no longer spills everywhere, it's directed like light through glass, focused and intentional. When someone crosses a line, they don't explode, they simply withdraw. Their silence is not coldness, it's a boundary enforced with elegance. Because they've learned that explaining a boundary is optional, enforcing it is what matters. People who once fed off their softness struggle to understand this shift. They call them distant, changed, or cold. But the Sigma empath hasn't lost warmth, they've learned to protect it. Their heart is still open, but it now has a gate. Not everyone gets entry, and the ones who do quickly realize how sacred that access is. Their boundaries have turned their empathy from a weakness into a force of balance. This transformation isn't born from bitterness, it's born from wisdom. They know that love without limits breeds dependence, not connection. They know that compassion without balance turns into control, so they give from abundance, not depletion. They help without attachment, they love without losing themselves. Their benevolence now carries quiet authority, a message that says, I can care deeply and still say no. And that no longer feels like guilt. It feels like freedom. Because the Sigma Empath has mastered what few ever do, the ability to love fiercely without abandoning themselves. That's the true paradox of their nature. Soft, yet unyielding. Kind, yet firm. Their empathy doesn't bend to please anymore. It stands to protect. And in that balance of compassion and boundary, the Sigma Empath becomes untouchable. Pure love with unshakable strength. Silent calibration. The Sigma Empath's silence isn't emptiness, it's calibration. Every pause, every quiet glance, every moment of stillness is a scan of the emotional landscape around them. While most people speak to fill silence, the Sigma Empath listens to what isn't said. They're constantly measuring energy, intention, and authenticity. Their silence is like radar. It picks up the smallest shifts, the contradictions between tone and truth, and the hidden motives behind smiles. They've learned that you can't understand people by their words alone. Words are costumes. Energy is the truth underneath. So they stay quiet long enough to let people reveal themselves. They don't rush to fill awkward moments because that's when others show who they really are. The silence disarms pretenders and soothes the genuine. It's their filter, a way to separate those who crave attention from those who value connection. This silent calibration is their defense mechanism, but also their superpower. They've been burned enough to know that not everyone deserves immediate access to their empathy. So they study first, engage later. They watch patterns, how someone treats the unseen, how they react when denied validation, how they behave when the empath's attention isn't guaranteed. These small observations tell them everything they need to know. To outsiders, this behavior looks mysterious, even intimidating. People mistake their quiet for indifference, but it's actually awareness at its highest level. The Sigma Empath doesn't need to dominate a room, they read it. And by the time everyone else starts talking, they already understand who's genuine, who's insecure, and who's dangerous. Their silence isn't passive, it's strategic empathy. It protects their peace and guides their connection choices. They know when to open up, when to stay vague, and when to disappear entirely. Because they've learned that not every emotion deserves expression, and not every person deserves access to their emotional world. In truth, their silence isn't absence, it's alignment. It's how they restore balance between their heart and intuition before deciding who's safe to let in. The Sigma Empath doesn't just feel, they measure feeling. And that's why their calm presence feels both comforting and unsettling at the same time, because in their silence, they already know the truth. Purposeful tenderness. The Sigma Empath doesn't love carelessly anymore. Their tenderness has become intentional, a force guided by awareness, not impulse. They once gave softness to everyone, believing that kindness could heal anything, but over time they learned that not all pain wants to be healed and not all people value light. So now, when they choose to be gentle, it's not weakness, it's wisdom in motion. Every act of kindness they offer is deliberate, precise, and anchored in strength. When a Sigma Empath comforts someone, it's not out of obligation, it's alignment. They don't soothe to be liked, they soothe to bring balance. Their words are measured, their timing thoughtful. They can sense when someone needs compassion and when they need truth. Their empathy doesn't enable, it elevates. They'll hug you through heartbreak, but also remind you when it's time to stop giving your power away. Their tenderness isn't blind, it's calibrated, rooted in both heart and discernment. And yet, this quiet care is disarming. It breaks through defenses not by force, but by presence. People feel safe around them without knowing why. It's because their energy says, I see you, not just your pain, but your potential. They don't project pity, they project belief. And that subtle shift changes everything. Their empathy doesn't just comfort, it awakens. This kind of tenderness is rare because it costs awareness. It requires emotional maturity to love without losing yourself, to care without clinging, to help without needing control. The Sigma Empath has learned to pour from a full cup, not a leaking one. They give, but only when it serves growth, theirs or someone else's. And when they pull away, it's not rejection, it's respect for their own peace, for your journey, for the natural rhythm of healing. People often confuse their calm with distance, not realizing it's what makes their love sustainable, because true tenderness isn't about intensity, it's about intention. The Sigma Empath doesn't smother you with care, they strengthen you with it. Their warmth doesn't trap, it frees. And that's the paradox of their soul, soft enough to understand your pain, but strong enough not to drown in it. Their love no longer comes from a need to save, it comes from a purpose to see. The Sigma Empath lives in that rare balance between intellect and intuition, where logic protects emotion and emotion gives logic its soul. They don't love recklessly anymore. They love intentionally. They no longer absorb pain just to prove their worth. They observe, they feel, and they decide. Because real strength isn't about becoming harder, it's about staying soft without breaking. Their empathy no longer drains them, it directs them. Their silence isn't withdrawal, it's wisdom. And their heart, though scarred, has become something extraordinary, a compass that points toward truth.